Revealed, the incredible transformation of a dishwashing hero working 80-hour weeks without pay. Jake Thompson's hands were raw and red. The warm, soapy water felt like fire against his skin as he scrubbed another greasy pot at the Maplewood diner. Every clink of plates, every splash of water echoed with the whispers of a life filled with grit and perseverance. In his mind, he wasn't just a dishwasher, he was a father, a fighter, the backbone of a community clinging to hope amidst financial despair. Lily, his bright-eyed daughter, played just beyond the diner's foggy windows, giggling as she chased butterflies in the early spring air. The sight set a warmth in Jake's heart, a flicker of pride against the harshness of his reality. He worked relentlessly, battling through an 80-hour week with a smile to mask the pain of not being paid. It made each day feel like climbing a hill of broken glass, but for Lily, he would endure it all. This little diner was more than just a job, it was home. Generations of families gathered, sharing meals and laughter, their spirits woven together like the threads of a patchwork quilt. But now, the fear of closure rippled through the town. The owner's debts loomed like a dark storm cloud. As Jake wiped his brow, he felt the weight press down on him, a weight that not only affected him but the whole community. Fueled by anger and determination, Jake gathered the regulars for a night of fundraising. They transformed the diner into a mini carnival, the air buzzing with laughter, the scent of sweet pies wafting as much as it did during Sunday brunch. Faces lit up with hope. Every dollar raised was a step toward saving a heartbeat of Maplewood. But through the crowd, a wealthy businessman looked on, arms crossed and lips curled into a sneer. "Dishwashers don't matter," he had said, a statement that churned Jake's stomach. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, behind the diner's flickering neon lights, Jake stepped up to a worn podium at the town meeting, heart racing, palms sweaty. He locked his gaze on the businessman, then turned to his friends and neighbors. He could feel his voice trembling as he spoke. "We are the heart and soul of Maplewood. It's not just about the food, it's about us, the ones who cook it. We can't let this place close." What followed ignited a spark in the crowd, like a flame catching the wind. They leaned forward, drinking in his every word, the weight of their shared struggle hanging in the air. But just when hope blossomed, the harsh truth surfaced. A meeting with the owner revealed the depths of the diner's debt. Disappointment washed over the faces of his friends. Jake stood amongst them, a wave of despair crashing over him. This was about more than just keeping a business afloat, it was about dignity, about showing his daughter that hard work meant something. Could they rise and rally together to save not only the diner but their way of life? The turning tide of hope flickered against the looming darkness. Would resilience pave a new path, or would their dreams vanish like the scent of fresh coffee in the morning air? With the meeting over and the stark reality hanging heavy in the air, Jake felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He glanced around the room, searching for answers in the faces of his friends and neighbors. They wore expressions of defeat, their shoulders heavy with the burden of uncertainty. The flickering neon lights of the diner seemed to dim alongside their hopes. But in that silence, a voice broke through the despair. Clara, a waitress with fiery red hair and a spirit to match, stepped forward. "We can't just roll over. This diner means too much to us. We've got to fight for it." Her words ignited the crowd, their spirits beginning to rise again as murmurs of agreement turned into lively discussions, ideas sparking like fireflies in the night. Jake's heart swelled. Clara had a gift for rallying people, and her passion was contagious. It dawned on him that they could coordinate efforts in a way he hadn't imagined. "What if we organize a plan?" he proposed, gaining a little confidence from Clara's courage. "We could host more fundraising nights, maybe even a bake sale or a car wash. Anything to get people in the door and money flowing in." People nodded enthusiastically, their faces brightening with renewed energy. They began brainstorming ideas, sharing stories of memories made at the diner. A family's reunion held over pancakes, the high school graduation parties that filled the space with joy. Each recollection breathed life into the room, filling them with a sense of purpose. Jake felt the tide turning. Amid the laughter and voices blending into one resounding echo of camaraderie, thoughts of the businessmen stuck in the back of his mind. Did he really believe their work was insignificant? The fire in Jake flared. He couldn't let someone like that dictate their worth. Their lives mattered, their community mattered, and this diner was a testament to that. Over the next few weeks, the diner became a hive of activity. Chairs were rearranged to make room for bingo nights, and posters were plastered around town to spread the word. Even Lily joined in, her tiny hands busy painting signs. "Save the diner," she shouted as she placed the last stroke of paint on a bright yellow poster. The innocence of her enthusiasm reminded Jake why they were fighting. Amidst the flurry, Clara discovered a local news station was looking for stories about small businesses and community efforts. "This could be our shot," she exclaimed, eyes shining with excitement. They could showcase their efforts and gather support from not just their town, but beyond. That evening, with a renewed sense of purpose flooding the diner, Jake looked around. The faces illuminated by the warm glow of the fairy lights strung up around the walls were filled with determination. But beneath the surface, anxiety mustered for what the news crew might reveal. Would the community stand with them? As the days passed and excitement buzzed through the air, Jake couldn't shake the fear that loomed just out of sight. The closer they got to the filming, the more he felt the weight of their dreams hanging on a thread. Would they succeed in uniting Maplewood? Or would it slip through their fingers like grains of sand? The camera would arrive in just a few days. Would it capture their struggle and resilience, or expose the cracks of their resolve? Jake couldn't help but wonder. What would it mean for their fight as they stood on the brink of everything they had poured their hearts into? With the sun rising on the anticipated day, a soft glow filled the diner. Jake felt the familiar warmth of the late summer morning seep through the windows, yet his stomach twisted in knots. He arrived early, his heart thudding against his chest with every step. The coffee pots were brewing, the smell rich and invigorating, but even that couldn't shake the storm brewing inside him. "Ready for today?" Clara's voice pulled him from his thoughts. She approached, looking radiant and more confident than ever. Her determination radiated like the morning sun. "I've got the cameras lined up, and everyone will be here soon." Jake forced a smile, though the butterflies still danced wildly in his stomach. "I think so. Just nervous, I guess." "Nervous is good," she said cheerfully, wrapping an arm around his shoulder. "It means you care. We all care." The buzz of voices began filling the diner as neighbors and friends trickled in, each person looking like they were donning a suit of armor. They were ready to tell their story, armed with laughter and shared memories. As the news crew set up, buzzing with equipment and excitement, Jake's anxiety transformed into anticipation. Jake's eyes scanned the crowd. Lily was there, tugging at Clara's skirt, her face painted with determined innocence. "I want to say something too, Daddy," she said, eyes wide with hope. "Of course, sweetheart," Jake replied, his heart swelling. "You've got the biggest voice of all." The crew, led by a bold woman named Sarah, introduced herself, the camera rolling to life. "We want to showcase the heart of Maplewood, and that starts here." She gestured around, capturing every smiling face. Jake felt each smile build a thread connecting them all, stronger than any single person. "Tell me what makes this diner special," Sarah prompted. Betwixt qualified interviews, voices rose with passion. Stories of the diner from the old-timers rolled out, tales of laughter shared over plates and memories built on friendship. Jake felt it, a vibrant tapestry of his hometown weaving itself right before his eyes. Every Saturday, my family would come here for breakfast. A stack of pancakes and the biggest cup of joe, one man shared, his chin quivering as he spoke. Laughter sparked as others chimed in with their own cherished recollections. But as the excitement swelled, so did Jake's worries. What if the businessmen saw the effort they poured into it? What if his criticism was louder than their voices? What if they fell short? He caught Clara's eye across the diner, her expression a mix of reassurance and resolve. She stood there, radiating the spirit of the room. "We're here," she mouthed, as though she could read his mind. Lily tugged at his hand. "Daddy, are you okay?" Jake knelt to her level, taking a moment to breathe, her innocent eyes grounding him. "Yeah, I just want to be brave like you. Then we will be together," she echoed. The energy around them surged. The final pieces fell into place as Sarah turned her attention back. "All right," she said with a smile, "who wants to share why this diner means so much to them? I want to hear from each of you." Hands shot up, voices clamoring to be heard, the clamor alive with hope. Yet just as the first few took their turns, a figure appeared at the door, the businessman who threatened their existence. His cold expression sent a chill through the room. The chatter faded, whispers rippling through the crowd. Jake felt his heart race, adrenaline flooding his veins. Would this fight finally reach a breaking point? Would their dreams be shattered at the hands of this man? The moment hung in the air, heavy as the weight of their hopes, and all eyes turned to Jake. What would he say next? Jake's pulse quickened. The man stood there, an imposing shadow against the inviting glow of the diner. He wore a crisp suit, his face a mask of cold indifference. The warmth of the diner felt miles away. "Don't let him rattle you," Clara whispered, squeezing his hand. It was a simple act, but it anchored him. He focused on Lily, her little fingers intertwined with his, as if she were a lifeline in this moment of uncertainty. "Let us keep going," Sarah said, her voice bright against the tension. She nodded toward the crowd. "Who's next?" A few brave souls stepped forward, determined to share their stories despite the looming threat. An elderly woman with silver hair spoke first. "This diner is where my late husband and I had our first date." Her voice quivered, but each word was steeped in love. "Every Saturday, we come for the same booth, sharing pancakes just like the ones you see here." The warmth of her story spread through the room. Laughter and soft tears accompanied her words, reminding Jake of what this place stood for. Each tale was a lifeline, stitching the fabric of their community tighter. But as the stories poured out, Jake's gaze drifted back to the businessman. His eyes were unreadable, scanning the crowd like a hawk. What would he say? Would he dismiss their heartfelt confessions? Another voice rose, a local baker sharing how the diner had become a second home. "My first job was washing dishes here. I was 15, and scared. But I learned about hard work and friendship over this counter." His eyes sparkled as he continued, "Now, I owe so much of my success to the lessons I learned from Jake and Clara." That ignited something inside Jake. He'd been a dishwasher too, a young man gripped by dreams. This diner was more than business, it was a launching pad for countless lives. Each person here wasn't just a customer, they were family. Realization dawned on him. He had to speak up. "Everyone, listen," he called, surprising himself with the strength of his voice. The chatter faltered, eyes turning towards him. "This diner isn't just about food," he began, his heart racing. "It's about stories, their stories, our lives. We've built this place together, and it matters. It's what keeps Maplewood alive." Applause erupted. The crowd held their support like a shield. Clara's smile shone brightly, her pride palpable. Lily jumped up and down, her enthusiasm infectious. That's right, Daddy. Lily cheered, creating ripples of joy that spread across the room. But the businessman remained unmoved. Jake's courage felt like a fragile flame against a storm. What do you think? He called out, his voice louder now. The businessman stepped forward, eyebrows raised in an unsettling mix of curiosity and skepticism. Interesting sentiment, Jake, he replied, his tone cool. But sentiments won't pay the bills. The truth is this isn't sustainable. The applause faltered. Jake felt the anxiety creep back in. We can make it work. He countered, his heart racing. We can make this place thrive together. Just then, someone from the back yelled, "We've got his back, Jake. We've always been here." A roar of agreement rang out. The tide had shifted, empowerment blossoming in the very air they breathed. The businessmen faltered, perhaps for the first time shaken by the resolve of the crowd. "Your move, Jake," Clara urged, her voice filled with fierce encouragement. What if they could turn this moment around? What if unity became their greatest weapon? Jake looked out over the faces beaming with solidarity. "Isn't that something worth saving?" he shouted, his heart in his throat. The businessman didn't answer. Instead, he studied the room with a mix of disdain and wariness. The silence stretched like a taut wire, tinged with uncertainty. And within that silence, Jake felt the stakes rising. What would it take to protect their dreams from being shattered? Would the reality of their determination break through the businessman's icy exterior? The air crackled with electricity, each heartbeat punctuating the tension. Jake stood at the crossroads of hope and fear, ready to fight. What was his next move? Jake's mind raced as he stood there, his heart thumping loudly in his chest. The weight of the crowd's hope pressed down on him, urging him to take a step forward. Clara's hand squeezed his tighter, giving him the courage he needed. What if a thought flickered in his mind, what if we could bring the community together? He could feel the shift, the energy humming like a live wire. The businessman still stood there, watching, perhaps waiting to see if the flames of passion would fizzle out or ignite into something greater. "Maybe," Jake began, his voice steadier now, "we could turn this into a community effort. What if we host events right here in the diner? Potlucks, musicians, story nights celebrating everything Maplewood has to offer. We could give people a reason to come together." A murmur swept through the crowd. Clara's eyes sparkled with hope, while Lily clapped excitedly. The faces around Jake began to light up, each person envisioning the possibility of laughter and love echoing around the diner once more. "Yes. We can do it," Sarah shouted, her enthusiasm infectious. "We can start right away." "I'm in." Others joined in, voices rising with excitement, ideas spilling forth like coffee from a freshly poured pot. But the businessman remained unmoved, his expression a mask of shrewd calculation. "You think having a few events will solve your problems?" He scoffed lightly, and Jake felt anger rising in his throat. "You need a real plan, not a wish list. Maybe it starts with community." Jake replied, frustration lacing his words. "It's not just about money, it's the spirit of the people. What are you doing here, really? Are you just wanting to tear this place apart?" Tension crackled in the air, and the businessman took a small step back, caught off guard. Jake could see a vulnerability just beneath the surface, a flicker of recognition. One by one, voices chimed in stronger than before. "We'll help. We can serve food. I know a band." The energy surged, and what once felt like a fragile endeavor now formed a resolute front. The businessman shifted again, and for a brief moment, doubt crept into his steely demeanor. "People are what keeps Maplewood alive," Jake continued, his voice softer now, trying to reach him. "Without these connections, these stories, it's just a building. You're gambling with lives, not just numbers." Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. But there was something different in the air. The crowd's voices rose in a chorus of agreement. Laughter and determination were woven tightly together. I remember the first time I walked through those doors, a young man shouted from the back, his voice full of emotion. I had nowhere else to turn. This place saved me. One by one, others shared their stories, light breaking through the cracks of fear. They spoke of lost jobs, broken hearts, and moments of joy, of finding family at the diner. Each story forged a bond thicker than any wall money could build. Jake turned back to the businessman, who was now warily glancing around at the faces lit with hope. You can be part of this, Jake urged. You can choose to invest in the heart of Maplewood, over profits. What kind of legacy do you want? The businessman shifted again, fingers drumming against his thigh. Legacies don't pay back the loans, he mumbled, but there was something different in his tone, a hint of doubt. Then find a way, Jake said, taking a step closer, feeling the weight of his community guiding him. This isn't just about survival. It's about thriving. The diner's energy pulsed around them, each heartbeat a reminder of the love and stories grounded within those walls. As the businessman considered the scene around him, Jake understood the moment was far from over. What decision would he make? Would he cling to the harsh reality, or embrace an unexpected possibility that could change everything? Jake's heart raced. The battle was just beginning, and he knew they'd need every ounce of strength to win this fight. But as hope surged through the room, he felt emboldened. Faith had brought them this far, but what would it take to tip the scales? The hum of anticipation filled the diner as the businessman paused, his brow furrowed in thought. The chatter around Jake felt like a vibrant melody, a call to arms swelling in his chest. He glanced at Clara, whose eyes radiated resilience and determination, and then back at the crowd, faces aglow with fervor. I don't know, the businessman finally admitted, rubbing the back of his neck as if he were shaking off uncertainty. I came here to make a profit. Profit is only part of it, Jake responded, his voice firm yet compassionate. What about impact? What about legacy? The raw urgency in his heart spilled into his words. You have a chance to leave something behind that means more than just dollar signs. A silence descended, but it wasn't the oppressive silence of defeat. It was a pregnant pause, heavy with thought. Jake took a step back, letting the gravity of his words settle. Suddenly, Sarah piped up, what if we showed him what this place means? We could hold a weekend event, invite everyone in town, and if he sees how the community comes together, maybe he'll understand. A wave of agreement rippled through the group, nodding heads and murmured affirmatives echoed around the diner. Yes. Let us do it. Lily exclaimed, her voice a spark igniting the fire. Let us call it the Maplewood Revival. A celebration of who we are. Jake's heart soared. Yes. This was it. The idea took root, more powerful than anything he could imagined. Perhaps this was the very thing that could bridge the gap. The businessman straightened, folding his arms. Fine, he said, though his words carried a hint of challenge, let us see if you can pull it off. A big gathering is one thing, but can you really sustain something like this? Jake opened his mouth to reply, but the crowd erupted into a joyful chatter, planning details, bouncing ideas off one another. It felt electric, a wave of determination washing over every single soul present. Who will cook? A voice called from the back. I can help with decorations. Another shouted. I know someone who can bring a sound system. Every idea served to fortify their spirits, stitching together a cooperative dream, one that began to feel tangible and real. Clara squeezed Jake's hand, her eyes twinkling with excitement. You see, Jake? It's happening. For hours they planned, laughter and love swirling around them. The sun dipped lower outside, casting a warm glow through the diner's windows. As twilight approached, Jake felt an unexpected surge of hope. And then it hit him like a light bulb flickering to life. He hadn't just convinced a businessman. They were all breaking through boundaries, tearing down walls that money had erected. New friendships blossomed between old neighbors. Long brewing rivalries faded under a blanket of shared purpose. But in the midst of the celebration, Jake could still sense the businessman's skepticism looming in the background. The man still needed convincing, and the pressure loomed. As they wrapped up the evening's planning, the businessman finally stepped forward. "I'll be back in a week to check on your progress. I expect real steps, no empty promises." Jake nodded, resolve coursing through his veins. "We won't disappoint you." As the crowd dispersed, adrenaline still coursing through him, Jake overheard snippets of conversation filled with hope and excitement. It ignited something deep within, a sense of belonging, of promise. But doubt beckoned. What if they couldn't pull it off? What if people didn't come? He looked at Clara, who caught his gaze and smiled warmly, as if to say they could do this. "Are you ready?" she whispered, confidence threading the question. "Ready as I'll ever be," he replied, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. With their community rallying around him, Jake turned towards the diner's weathered front door, ready to embrace whatever came next. In that moment, he knew they were fighting for more than just a diner. They were fighting for a future. But as hope surged and excitement thrummed in the air, uncertainty fluttered in his chest. What might they uncover about themselves along the way? The crisp morning air cut through Jake as he emerged from the diner. The glow from the streetlights made the world shimmer, a stark contrast to the chaos inside his mind. The night's discussions lingered, each voice echoing in his thoughts. He took a deep breath, remembering Clara's bright smile. That smile was all the motivation he needed. "All right, Jake," he whispered to himself, "let's make this happen." The first task was organizing the volunteers. He gathered a few community members at a nearby park, and as they arrived, their faces radiated excitement. Laughter mingled with conversations about old times. It amazed him how quickly their fears dissipated. "Let us define our roles," Sarah suggested, her hands on her hips. "If we each take on a responsibility, we can really rally everyone together." "Yes." Jake felt the warmth of her enthusiasm. "Why don't we start with food? Who's in charge of that?" "I can coordinate," Lily offered, already flipping through her phone for catering ideas. "We could ask local businesses to donate." "Perfect," Jake said, heart racing with hope. "And maybe we could tie in a community cook-off? Let everyone showcase their favorite dishes." "I'm in," shouted a voice from the back. It was Tom, the owner of the Italian place downtown. "Just say the word, and I'll cook up my grandma's lasagna." Excitement surged through the group. Plans unfurled like the petals of a flower, vibrant and alive. They tossed around ideas for decorations, entertainment, and even games for kids. Each heartbeat of collaboration built something bigger, a tapestry of shared dreams. As the meeting wrapped up, Clara stepped closer to Jake, her expression serious. "Jake, I love this energy, but are you sure we can manage? The businessman still expects results." He looked into her eyes. "We will make it happen, Clara. If we can show him the heart of this community, he'll have no choice but to see the value." They spread out to tackle their tasks, and Jake felt more confident than ever. Each conversation sparked a feeling of unity, a sense of purpose that went deeper than the event itself. It was about connection, about rediscovering their roots. However, reality quickly set in. The following days blurred into a whirlwind of organizing and planning. Jake locked himself in the diner for hours, tending to the details of the event. He pored over spreadsheets while juggling phone calls, trying to keep everyone motivated amid nagging doubts. With little sleep and endless work, he found himself standing behind the counter, staring at the grease-splattered coffee machine that felt like a piece of his life. The diner was more than a building, it was a sanctuary of memories. But the pressure was mounting. He noticed Clara's brow furrowing as the days passed. "You all right?" he asked one evening, his concern bubbling to the surface. "I'm just worried, Jake," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if we don't pull this off? What if people don't come?" She trailed off, but Jake reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. "We will. This is about us. It has to be." As they stood there in fleeting silence, he didn't know if he believed his own words, but he had to. He couldn't let doubt creep in, not now. The weeks sped by, and the day of the Maplewood revival approached like the dawning sun, both promising and terrifying. Friends, neighbors, old rivals all were poised to gather. But there was still one question that gnawed at him. Would the businessman truly see the heart of Maplewood, or would he only see a spectacle? With the sun setting on the eve of the event, Jake could almost feel the bursting energy of the community. But as he put everything into place, a sinking realization washed over him. What if their best wasn't good enough? And at that moment, doubt transformed into a storm of uncertainty. Would their light shine bright enough to cut through the businessman's shadow? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the park pulsed with a nervous energy, a vibrant mix of anticipation and anxiety. Jake surveyed the space where the event would unfold. Tables were set up, streamers flapped gently in the breeze, and the scent of Tom's lasagna wafted from the catering truck. But below the surface, a storm brewed in his heart. Clara joined him, her presence a calming balm against the rising tide of worry. "Jake, it's going to be okay. Just look at what everyone's done. This is what we've built together," she urged, her voice warm and steady. He glanced at the people working around them. Sarah guided a team of volunteers hanging lights, while Lily laughed with a group assembling games for the kids. They seemed so ready, so full of hope. Yet, the shadow of doubt still loomed heavy in his mind. "I know," he replied slowly, almost as if testing the weight of the words. "But what if it's not enough? What if we fail?" Clara stepped in closer, placing a hand on his arm. "Failure isn't about the numbers, it's about whether we tried. We've already succeeded at bringing everyone together. People are feeling something again, Jake. That's what matters." He wanted to believe her. The laughter, the warmth, it reminded him of Maplewood in its heyday, a time when the community thrived rather than simply surviving. But then, the thought of the businessman's cold appraisal returned. Would he see that? Would he understand that this wasn't just an event, but a revival of their spirit? As darkness cloaked the park, fairy lights flickered to life, illuminating the laughter that echoed through the trees. Jake felt the swell of gratitude as familiar faces gathered, their excitement palpable. Yet, just as quickly, the pressure threatened to drown him. He pushed through the crowd, stopping to greet friends and neighbors. Each smile felt like a tether, anchoring him amid the overwhelm. "Hey, Jake. This is fantastic." Tom's cheerful voice broke through his haze as he handed over a steaming tray of lasagna. The aroma was irresistible, and for a moment, Jake was transported to a simpler time. "Thanks, Tom. It looks amazing," he replied, trying to lift the heaviness that sat in his gut. "You really went all out." "Everyone deserves a little love in their food," Tom winked, raising a spatula like a trophy. Jake couldn't help but smile back, warming to the idea that maybe love was indeed the ingredient they were missing. Still, the underlying tension gnawed at him. As they set up for the night, he caught snippets of conversations growing louder, more animated. The vitality of the people around him surged like a wave. This was what made Maplewood unique: its heart, its togetherness. Yet what if the businessman's analysis ignored the connections? What if he came as an outsider and saw only numbers? Suddenly, laughter and shouts erupted from the games area. Children squealed in delight, their joy spilling over into the crowd. Clara reached for his hand. "Let us join them. We can't lose sight of the joy we're creating," she urged. Together, they moved toward the laughter, the weight beginning to lift. Jake chuckled as Lily led a group in an impromptu pie-eating contest, their faces smeared with whipped cream. In that moment, he felt it, the heartbeat of Maplewood echoing through the joyful chaos. Maybe this was what mattered most. It was about community, spirit, and the memories they were making, not just about the businessman's approval. But just as he let that thought settle, a sleek car rolled into the park, its headlights piercing through the festivities. The businessman stepped out, his presence cold and calculating. Jake's heart dropped. This was it. The defining moment that could change everything. Would they rise to the occasion, or would their light flicker? He took a deep breath, ready to face the challenge. But as he watched the crowd, he realized every eye was now drawn to the man in the suit. What would happen next? Jake stood frozen as the businessman's polished shoes crunched softly on the gravel pathway. The laughter around him faded to a murmur, like a radio losing its signal. He could feel the weight of the moment bearing down, thickening the air with expectation. Would this man be a bridge to a brighter future for Maplewood, or an immovable wall of corporate indifference? Clara squeezed his hand, her warmth grounding him in that sea of uncertainty. He looked at her, searching for reassurance. "We can do this," he whispered, though his own heart thudded against his ribcage, questioning that very statement. The businessman approached, his presence commanding yet distant, scrutinizing the scene with narrowed eyes. Jake could see the evaluation playing out on the man's face, a mix of surprise and disdain. Here was a community festooned with love and laughter, and this man seemed to expect a boardroom presentation instead. "Good evening," Jake finally managed, forcing a smile, but it felt brittle and rehearsed. "Evening," the businessman replied, glancing briefly at Clara before redirecting his gaze at Jake. "I see you've gathered quite the crowd." His tone was flat, almost clinical as he scanned the assembled group. It's a community event," Jake explained, his confidence wavering. "It's all about bringing everyone together again." The words felt meager as they left his lips, like a child trying to explain a dream to a disinterested adult. "Togetherness is nice, but what's the revenue model?" The businessman interjected, seemingly unfazed by the spirit encapsulating the park. Those words struck harder than Jake anticipated. It was the very thing he feared. The man saw only the bottom line, not the beating heart of what they had worked so hard to create. "It's not about that," Jake countered, his voice rising slightly. "This night is about connection and rebuilding what we've lost. Revenue can't measure the warmth of a community coming back together." The crowd buzzed, whispers rippling through them. Clara looked around, seeming both proud and alarmed. "Jake," she mouthed, cautioning him. But the fire within him ignited. "We lost so much during those hard years, people left, businesses closed. It nearly took our spirit with it. We're showing that we're still here, still standing together, and that's worth so much more than profit margins." The intensity of his feelings surged, grasping at the shared history of Maplewood. Friends, laughter, resilience, it was all piled together. The businessman tilted his head, perhaps reconsidering Jake's fervor. "Emotional arguments don't pay the bills. But they keep the community alive," Jake replied, a sense of passion pushing him forward. "Every lost soul they remembered, every smile they nurtured, it mattered. You have to understand what we've been through." The moment hung in the air, taut with possibility. Clara's hand tightened around his as if channeling strength from those words. It wasn't just about surviving for them anymore, it was about thriving. The crowd watched, eager for clarity, ready for unity. Suddenly, the businessman's demeanor shifted slightly. "Perhaps," he allowed, his expression near imperceptibly softening. "But people get bored easily, Jake. You need something that lasts. What do you suggest?" Jake asked, feeling raw and unguarded, the enormity of his challenge laid bare. The businessman studied the crowd again, this time not with disdain but with a flicker of curiosity. "I might have some ideas, but it involves stepping out of this bubble of warmth. Jake's heart raced. Was this an invitation, or a warning? As he stared into the businessman's eyes, a silent challenge passed between them. He felt the pulse of the park thrumming with life and the memories of sleepless nights laboring for this moment. Would he fight to protect this fragile revival, or would he let it falter under a cold corporate eye? Decisions awaited him, and the heart of Maplewood beat brightly in defiance. Clara leaned in, her eyes wide, brimming with a mixture of fear and hope. What if it changes everything? Maybe it has to, Jake replied. The night wasn't over, and the stakes were just getting higher. Before either could say more, a little girl's voice rose above the murmurs, calling for her dad. As if in a wave, laughter broke out again, drawing everyone back into the warmth. But Jake couldn't shake the weight of the businessman's gaze. Was this a time for change, or simply a fleeting moment caught in the chaos of community? He took a step back, uncertain of what lay ahead. What challenges were just around the corner, waiting to unravel them all? The air buzzed with excitement as the Maplewood revival kicked into full swing. Laughter echoed around the park, and the aroma of Tom's lasagna mingled with Clara's famous apple pie. People danced, kids ran around with painted faces, and the stage buzzed with local musicians strumming heartwarming tunes. Jake felt the energy rise like a rising tide, but one shadow loomed larger than the rest, the businessman. As Jake shifted his gaze, he spotted the businessman at the edge of the festivities, arms crossed, an expression unreadable. A knot twisted in his stomach. Here was a man who saw profit before people. Could anyone really change him? The very heart of Maplewood beat loudly around him, yet Jake felt the flicker of doubt linger. Then he caught sight of Lily, her face illuminated with joy as she colored with her friends. It struck him, they were doing this for her, for every child who deserved to feel the hope and warmth of community. He felt an ember stir within, igniting determination. This isn't just about numbers, he thought. It's about legacy. He turned back to the crowd, and his voice rose above the musical notes, calling for attention. Everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. You are the essence of Maplewood. Cheers erupted, faces bright with encouragement. The businessman looked on, his brows furrowing slightly as if he were trying to calculate the value of such a moment. Jake pressed on. Tonight isn't simply about saving a diner, it's about remembering who we are. Together, we can let this place thrive, a sanctuary for laughter, friendship, and everlasting memories. A thunderous applause followed. Clara stepped onto the stage, her spirit so fierce it was contagious. Let us celebrate the stories that connect us, she shouted, a spark of enthusiasm igniting the crowd. Jake watched as laughter flowed back into the air, and more neighbors stepped forward, sharing their tales of love and loss, of hope and rebirth within those diner walls. Each story spun a thread that pulled them closer together, stitching up the fabric of their community. But amidst this, Jake caught the businessman's eye, desperation building in his chest. What could sway this man who thrived on the cold calculations of profit? He knew the road wasn't easy, but beneath all those layers was a heart that could be unlocked. The unexpected happened. The businessman stepped toward the stage, hesitant and uncertain. Hearing the stories of resilience, a flicker of curiosity crossed his face. "All right," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "If you're serious about this revival, let us talk partnerships. I see potential in this community." Jake's heart raced. Could this truly be a pivotal moment for Maplewood? "What do you mean?" he asked, adrenaline pulsing through him. "I'm willing to support these community events, but on one condition," the businessman said, his voice steady. "We need to develop a proper business plan, something sustainable. I'll guide you through it if you're all on board." The crowd murmured, weighing the significance of his proposition. Clara's eyes sparkled with excitement, and a glimmer of hope sparkled in Jake's heart. "We will," he declared, stepping forward. We'll create a partnership, one that blends heart and business. Their eyes locked, the businessman's steely gaze glimmering with unexpected warmth. In that instant, Jake saw a flicker of change, a crack in the facade of indifference. Together, they began drafting plans right there amid the laughter, commitment echoing in the air. It wouldn't just be about survival, it would carve a brighter future. The businessman found himself swept into the enthusiasm of the night, genuinely interested. Jake looked around at his friends, family, and neighbors, their faces glimmering with joy and purpose. "Tonight marks a new dawn for all of us," he said, his voice unwavering. "We will rise together." Silence enveloped them momentarily before erupting into applause once more, a roaring anthem of unity and resilience. Faith surged through every soul present, they were ready to embrace this transformation, together. The night's laughter melded with their newfound hope, intertwining stories eternally woven into the fabric of Maplewood. As stars twinkled overhead, Jake slipped his hand into Lily's. Her fingers curled around his and he felt the depth of his love for her, a blazing momentum for their community. With dreams renewed and barriers broken, they stepped into the future, ready to fight for every moment, every connection, every heartbeat. This was not just a revival, it was a community reborn. And as the celebration continued, a call echoed through Jake's mind, a reminder that the journey was just beginning. Could they cement this change not just for the diner, but for all of Maplewood? Time would tell, but tonight, they stood victorious. Now, the time to act is here. Don't wait another second, subscribe immediately to fuel the journey ahead. Your support really matters, and we can't do this without you. Hit that like button to keep this inspiration flowing through the algorithm. I want to hear from you. Comment below your thoughts, your hopes, and what this story means to you. And remember, share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. You need to be part of this community as we move forward together. Let's spread the message loud and clear. This is just the beginning.